Good morning. You are listening to National Real Estate Radio Show. I am your host, Doug Dennison, and we are broadcasting from beautiful St. Augustine, Florida, the nation's oldest city at WFOY 1240 AM and WFOY 102.3 FM studios. Through the power of the internet, this program is being streamed worldwide on 1023newsradio.com. Additionally, this show will be posted on youtube.com. Our radio show mission statement: to provide an educational experience for listeners in a promotional format for real estate sales across the country. We're going to be talking about real estate. Not only real estate, but investing real estate. We usually talk a lot about from sellers and from attorneys. We rarely get into what does an investor think about when they're buying. And so that's going to be exciting today. We've got people from Dallas calling in. We've got people that might come into the studio. We've got people calling from Phoenix, Arizona. All good stuff. Again, our radio show mission statement: provide an educational experience for listeners in a promotional format for real estate sales across the country. That's important. You always want to try to present a show that is going to be educational in a way, because we get a whole range of listeners. We get the top VIPs of real estate who know much more about me, about the real estate world than I do, and so I'm just asking them questions, and they give it out to everybody. So we get bankruptcy attorneys, and we get bankers, and last week we had lenders on. Mortgage company came into the studio and talked about their company. I have been up recently to Georgia at the Georgia Auctioneers Convention, where the top auctioneers in the country, even the new president and the bid calling champion of America for the auctioneers, was at the particular conference and interviewed him. So I get experts from all over calling into this show, but there's a whole range of listeners. There's general public that has no idea, about that much in regards to real estate, and that's why last week when we had the lending group, the first option mortgage, I wanted to make sure that they told the people what they would need to do if they were going to get a loan. And so they gave that information, and that was very, very helpful. We get real estate media on this show that like to find out about what we're doing and what the difference in the markets are, because we get information from markets all across the country. Again, we're going to have Dallas call in today. We're going to have Phoenix, Arizona call in today. We also get people who are basically people from conferences. We've got the 5-Star Conference that's going to be calling in. They are the elite of the conferences in the country. They've got one coming up on September 8th to 10th. I'm thrilled because I'm going to be speaking at the conference. There's usually 4,000, 5,000 people there. Great group of really VIPs, and we do a lot of networking there. And I'm going to try to do my radio show from there, even though it's not going to be on Friday. I believe I've got it set up. I've just talked to the radio station manager, and there's a real good possibility that might be able to do a on the site Dallas show. So that's very exciting. Want to talk about auctions a little bit. One of our guests on the second half of the show, again from Phoenix, he was somebody that came to our auctions. And first met him, believe it or not, in 1991. And it was a great big auction. It was 1,800 properties. And again, this is 1991, so 22 years ago. He was much younger. I was much younger. And there's a great story on that. But first, let's have a quick break. All right, we're back. You're listening to the National Real Estate Radio Show. We've got our first guest. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Doug. It's Brent Lockhart with the Five Star Institute and the Default Title Coalition.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, you're from Dallas, and I was just kind of doing an intro for your firm and a little bit about the conference. Let's go there first. I know you're in the Default Title Coalition part, but there is an amazing conference coming up, and you need to tell the world about it. So give some background, if you would.
Oh, thank you very much. So, yes, our conference is coming up here in a few weeks on September 8th, 9th, and 10th in Dallas. It's called the Five Star Conference and Expo. It's our 10th anniversary, so we're celebrating 10 full years, a decade of this conference. And it focuses on, it originally was for those people in the mortgage and real estate industries who have some role in the default or REO space. It's grown beyond that, and it's now the largest mortgage servicing conference and trade show in the U.S. So it hits really anyone who works or touches mortgages and real estate in any way, all the way from mortgage originators, mortgage loan servicers, then all the way to real estate brokers and agents and everything in between, including title companies, including attorneys, investors, and all of those kinds of professionals. So it really is a broad show, but it has specific, almost what we call mini conferences within the conference to allow a professional in a given discipline, whether it's the title area or an attorney or a banker or a servicing professional, to find opportunities to network and to learn within their own discipline. So that's the show, the Five Star Conference and Expo in Dallas, coming up in a couple of weeks.
Well, it's exciting, and I've talked about your conference and your group for really years, because I've been to many of your conferences. I always tell people, if you've only got the budget for one conference per year, and if you're in the real estate business and you're in the lending business, this is the one to go to. And great speakers, great networking, and I'm honored because you've asked me to be a speaker. So tell me what I'm going to be doing on September 8th to 10th, because that's pretty exciting to me.
Oh, thanks. Well, so as a part of the Five Star Conference and Extra, we have some broad conference-wide events.
Mm-hmm.
For example, former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice is going to be a keynote speaker this year. But then, beyond that, we have individual academic sessions and roundtables by different disciplines, where we gather people in smaller rooms, smaller groups for conferences and for learning and for roundtables and that kind of thing. So you, for example, are going to be serving and speaking to our group that's focused on the title area in an academic session called Going Once, Going Twice, and the Title Goes To. So it's about the whole auction process.
Mm-hmm.
So in an auction process, there's a number of steps, of course, and this particular academic session is going to be about what's the title's role? What's the path of a title to a home or a property in the whole auction process? What's that path look like? And so how can I better understand what happens to a title in the auction process? The auction process can be intimidating simply because it's specific and it's quick. And if you don't know all the steps, then you might not get the outcome in that auction that you were personally hoping for.
Sure.
So we want to help people to understand what the auction process is, and in this particular session, what's the path of the title throughout the auction process, so that you can make sure that the title is clear and good, and be confident about that. So you, Doug, because of your own experience in the auction world, are going to be speaking on that particular panel.
And I'm all excited about it. There's some big VIPs on that panel. I'm honored to be a part of it. Do you have that list, or do you remember some of those great people, or what?
Oh, sure,
what groups?
Sure.
If you could name them, I think that would be helpful.
Oh, great! Yes. It's going to actually be moderated by Miriam Moore, who's with ServiceLink, and ServiceLink, of course, is a very important player in the whole mortgage world.
Absolutely.
ServiceLink, she's with ServiceLink, and then we'll have yourself, of course, and then we have Susan Pettum with First American Title. So First American Title, of course, is one of the largest title underwriters in the nation.
A giant,
and,
yep.
So Susan is going to be with us. We have John Langston with Huntable Law Firm. So John is with a law firm, is an attorney, and of course attorneys are very involved in the whole title process because of the legal element of it. And so John and his law firm do specialize in a lot of that title kind of work, and also have a big role in a lot of experience in the whole REO space, of course, too. And then Laura Hinkey with Affinia Title, another title company, and so she represents a local player in the Southeast, and so Affinia Title is there and a major player there, so she brings the title-specific perspective to what the panel is going to be talking about.
That's great. That's wonderful. The interesting thing about, I think, your conference and the panels and the seminars and the educational components, I mean, there's some really superstars there that it's like, you point at them and say, wow, that's one of the top people in the country in this particular sector. Or, my gosh, that's Fred from this big company, and you actually get a chance to meet them, maybe bond with them, after the seminar, have dinner, breakfast, all that kind of stuff. And I think that's so important that there is that opportunity. And a lot of that doesn't happen unless you're a really good conference group that knows how to kind of move things that way and get people to interact. And because you can go to conferences and if you're shy, you may never meet anybody unless somebody kind of pulls you around and kind of introduces you and kind of brings you out of your shell. And so I just want to applaud your group because, again, I've been there for years and years. I don't think it's 10. I think probably 7 or 8 different times I've spoke there before on a various array of different things. But your group seems to have the people and the outgoing personalities that get people to meet other people. And it might just be, 3 seconds on your part, Brent, but by the time that you introduce somebody to somebody and they exchange business cards and they end up maybe becoming friends and doing business together, that is one of the big reasons I think your group is the best.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that. I mean, and that is really a goal of our conference and of our company. Everything that we do is helping companies build their businesses and build their businesses through all the things that you've just talked about. I mean, the networking is very important. Relationship building is very important. And the marketing that can be done through other avenues. So Five Star Institute, in addition to, of course, putting on this conference, the largest conference in this space.
Yes.
We also publish DS News Magazine. We publish the M Report magazine and their companion websites, dsnews.com and the mreport.com. So everything that we do, the publishing that we do, the conferences that we do, and the professional groups that we have. I mean, all of that is to serve this big community that's very important in the U.S. economy, obviously.
Yes.
The home mortgage report is so important to our economy overall. And so we serve that community through these things that we do, and it is really our goal to promote the health and the growth of this whole segment. And we play our role in that through the communications that we do, the magazines that we produce, and the websites, through getting out information. We also do that through the marketing we do and the way that we enable people to meet one another and network with one another and build business and build relationships. So everything from the national players, like you just mentioned, the national players that we're very blessed, do come to the show, all the way down to the local people who are on the ground in Atlanta or Des Moines or San Diego, and those people who are making transactions happen in those local communities, whether it's the sale of a home or whether it's the title work on that home or the origination of the loan in that community, and then the servicing of it, all of those steps. I mean, it happens, of course, in the local community. So all those connections are vital and important, and we are really gratified and really thankful that that we have been successful in helping people forge those kinds of relationships and connections through a show. I mean, there's a lot of ways in the modern world to connect with people online and emailing and phone calls, etc. But there is kind of no substitute for meeting people face to face. When you can do that, it's a great advantage.
It's a great conference. Again, I'm going to be there speaking. I'm also going to try to do the radio show. You and I talked about that yesterday. I talked to the radio station manager this morning. Looks like we can do that. I'll talk to you about that offline. But tell us, how do you find out information about the conference and the Default Title Coalition, all that kind of stuff, if you would?
Oh, thanks. So yes, I mean, for anybody who's interested in the conference, we'd love to talk with you and discuss with you. But the easiest way is to go to our website, 5starconference.com. That's the number 5 spelled out, so F-I-V-E, 5starconference.com. And at 5starconference.com, you can see all about the speakers, the roundtables and courses, and the meetings that we have set up. And then, of course, you can get information on how to register and how to find your hotel, etc. So we're here in a couple of weeks. It's happening here in a couple of weeks. There's still plenty of time for people to do that. So go to 5starconference.com, and you can see everything about registering. And if you have any questions, there's a phone number there. The phone number would be 214-525-6749 for any information about the conference. So that's the phone number. There's the website. We also, I'm talking to you, and I'll make a plug real quickly because I do a lot of work in the title space. We have a new division for title professionals.
Yes.
Called Default Title Coalition. So it's for title professionals who want or do work in the title and the default and REO space, and that would be titlecoalition.com for more information about that.
Well, that's excellent. I'll do one more thing because I love it so much. There's a thing called Daily Dose, and it's on your dsnews.com. And again, people go on dsnews.com. If you go on there, you'll see every day the top the top stories, and there's a place there that you can get a free subscription, so that every day the top stories get emailed to you, and again, free of charge. Is the best source. The magazine, Carrie Bay, the editor, and of course my friend Ed Delgado, who takes care of everybody over there as the CEO, does a wonderful job. So give us the websites one more time.
Yeah, so 5starconference.com,
mm-hmm.
and then titlecoalition.com. Those are two of those sites. The site for the magazine is, dsnews.com and themreport.com, and you can find out about all of our products, whether the conference or magazine or whatever, at the5star.com. So the 5star.com is really our umbrella site for all those different other efforts that we have, whether it's a magazine or a conference or a professional group. But the5star.com is our largest site.
Great. Hey, thank you so much, Brent. Again, Brent Lockhart from the Five Star Conference and the Default Title Coalition, Dallas, Texas, taking time to give us a call and tell us about this wonderful conference coming up. Thank you so much for calling. You have a good weekend.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you so much.
Take care now. Bye-bye. All right. That's a great call. Again, Five Star Conference, one of the best in the country. We've just had a guest come on. I told you a little bit about it. We want to talk to real estate investors as a topic of this show today. Alex, thank you so much for coming on the show and coming into the studio.
Well, Doug, thanks for having me on the show.
Give us your full name and why you're in St. Augustine. We've got like 2 minutes before we take a break. We're gonna intersperse you the whole show, but tell us a little bit why you're here.
My name is Alexander Samarsky. We're developing hotel property here in St. Augustine, Florida.
Okay.
It's going to be a 95-unit, 2 towers, 5-story property, all suites, located just off of US 1, south of King Street, about a half a block.
Okay. Very good. And you've done real estate investment before, actually done a couple of hotels before, correct?
Yes, this is my 7th project.
Okay.
We completed one in Sarasota, Florida a few years ago. The rest are out in Wisconsin, North Dakota, Michigan.
Very, very good. I guess one of the things we'll be asking about, we're going to go to break in a minute here, but as an investor, the different things that make you make that final decision on the property. And I know there's a barrage of different things, and we talk about on this show a lot. We talk from bankers, and we hear from real estate brokers, and we hear from lenders, but we don't hear that much about the real estate investor, why they do the investing, what the different parts are that comes into the final decision. So that's a couple of the things that I'll be asking you. We want to hear more about the hotel. What's the hotel going to be called?
It'll be called the Sebastian Hotel.
Sebastian Hotel, right near downtown St. Augustine, and that is pretty special. That is a big thing for the area. And, of course, we're broadcasting from St. Augustine, Florida. This is WFOY 1240 AM and WFOY 102.3 FM studios. We're going to go for a quick break. We'll have Alex come back, and we've got other callers, and pretty exciting. All right, we are back. You're listening to the National Real Estate Radio Show. I'm your host, Doug Dennison. We had a great caller on earlier from Dallas, Texas. We've got another caller on. Hello, you're on the air.
Hey, Doug, this is John Fox.
John, hey, sir, how are you doing? I haven't talked to you in a while, so thank you so much for coming on the show. Tell us who you are, where you're from, and what do you do, sir?
Okay, I manage some private partnerships for investors, and we started doing this in 1991. You had asked a question right before the break saying that you're wondering why investors do what they do and how they get involved in it.
Yep.
In my case, I can answer that question for you, for me, and that is that in 1991 I had a little bit of money I wanted to invest somewhere, and there was an auction in town in Denver where I lived. So I went to the auction. I did a bunch of research on a bunch of the land that was in that auction. I ended up buying some of the property. I only spent $41,000. It wasn't a big thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
But within 4 months, I had sold that property off, and my net sales after the realtor commissions and all that, I netted $92,000.
Nice.
So I made a $51,000 profit on a $41,000 investment, and I said, gee, there's something to this. And at the time I worked for Merrill Lynch.
Okay.
So, I mean, I was looking for investments.
Okay.
I found out that the difference between buying real estate, especially at auction, versus buying a stock is that every time I bought a stock, especially when I bought it for an investor, for a client, I bought it because I expected it to go up, I hoped for it to go up, and I was looking for it to go up. When I buy the real estate at the auctions, I'm not buying it because I expect it to go up. I'm buying it because it's selling below its current market value, and I already have a profit. I just need to determine when it's going to actually get sold and make that profit.
I got it.
Big difference. Let me give you two examples.
Okay.
That make perfect sense.
Yep.
One is a piece of property I bought in Colorado Springs.
Okay.
And this is back in the 90s somewhere, I think about 93, 94, so it's a long time back, but I use it as one of my early examples.
Mm-hmm.
There was a piece of property that a man had bought 3 different lots, and he was building condos and townhouses on the lots. He had already built the first one out. He was building the second one, and the third one was going to be his third phase. He bought each one individually, the lots, from whomever, and he owed on that third lot $270,000. He hadn't done any development on it. His savings and loan went belly up.
Mm-hmm.
The RTC was given the loan and called the loan. They went to him and said, we know you're not late on any payments, but we need you to pay it off anyway. And it's in the fine print of a lot of loans that they can be called if the banks go belly up.
Right.
He went to the bank and said, okay, what can you do for me? They said, well, we're only giving 50% on houses, on land right now, so we'll appraise the land and give you 50%, but you're going to have to pay the difference. They appraised it at $170,000 and offered him an $85,000 loan, which meant he had to pay the difference between $270,000 that he owed that was being called and $85,000 on a new mortgage. He couldn't do it.
Right.
He let it go back to the bank in a deed in lieu of foreclosure, even though he was never late. Now, I found all this out because it was in an auction, and I talked to the realtor that had it listed. And I'll talk about that in a minute, which is how to find out about these properties.
Right.
But I found out all this information, and then it was going to auction, so I knew it was worth approximately $170,000. I figured if I could buy it for $105,000, $110,000, put it back up at like $160,000 or $155,000, I'd make some decent profit and move on.
Yep.
It went to the auction. The builder that I'm talking about did not show up, just probably because he was discouraged. Other people did, but nobody was hardly bidding. I won that property at $42,500.
Oh, okay.
I didn't have to worry about whether I was going to make money or not. I was guaranteed at $42,500 I was going to make money. As it turns out, I went right back to the realtor that had it listed for the bank, relisted it with her. She went back to this guy, and this guy said, well, I'd love to buy it at $170,000, but the bank will only lend me $85,000, and I just don't know what to do. Well, since it was in the early 90s, I knew that cash for me was king. I didn't have a lot of money back then.
Yep.
And I said, I need a cash offer. 2 weeks later, he came back to me and apologized and said, I can't do this $170 deal. I can only do $140 if you want cash. So I said, all right, let me think about it a minute. Okay, I'll do it.
I was going to say, how long did you think?
Yeah, less than a second. But see, that's the difference between real estate at auction and the stock market.
Yep.
I knew it was worth more than I was paying for it before I even bought it.
Well, you get to a really good point, John, because and we'll get to some of the other auction. The big auction I want to talk about is the Texas one that you came down on. But the thing is, you need to be prepared. You need to know what you're doing. You need to figure out what you're going to bid and try to avoid, getting excited and maybe bidding too much. But preparation and knowledge, I think, is the key here. Is that correct?
When I find out about an auction, it normally takes me 3 to 4 weeks to completely do my due diligence if it's a good-sized auction.
Okay.
If there's 200 properties in that auction, and there were properties like that in the good old days.
Yep.
It's getting to where now there's not any more again, but it ebbs and flows.
Yep.
But if there were 200 properties, it would take me 3 or 4 weeks. I would call every single one of the agents that had those 200 properties listed. I would milk them for everything they would tell me, what the property was worth, what it was listed for, why it was in foreclosure, what the issues were with the property. And I would go to the auction with a bid number on 180 of those 200 properties.
Wow.
I wouldn't buy 180.
Yep.
Most of them went higher than I was willing to pay.
Right.
I've admitted to people, I'm a vulture. I buy dead things, and I eat up the dead things, but then I make money by doing so.
Well, the auction I remember, I didn't even remember that you were involved in the RTC auction, which we had, 800 properties in 2 days at the Marriott there. I had forgotten about that.
That was the very first auction I went to,
Yep.
July 1st, 1991.
Yep.
I can tell you the date.
Yep. And then that same year, I believe, we had a big auction. It might have been 92 in Texas, and it was for banks. It was more than 1,800 properties, and it was crazy. Our friend, and of course, he wanted to say hi. Louis Fisher and I went out there. Actually, spent like 30 days away from the house, which was difficult. But doing seminars, doing auctions, we did them in 8 different cities, 10 different nights, sold all 1,806 properties, all of them absolute, which means that it sells no matter what. Big success, but the key in an auction is that there's going to be some properties that go higher than you'd ever expect, and there's going to be some properties that go lower than you expect, and so you have to be a good auction buyer. And you came down, and again, 1,806 properties. I don't believe you saw every one of them, but you're crazy. You drove all around the state of Texas, didn't you?
I followed you to all 5 cities you did your auctions in. I was in, at the time, because again, this was early in my buying, I was in a pickup truck with a camper on the back and
Yep.
slept in the back of my own truck.
Yep.
And I had numbers on probably about 1,300 of those 1,800
Wow.
properties. I ended up buying 35 of them.
Okay.
And see, and that's a key point. It's 1,300. You think you'd buy 600 or 700. I write my numbers in ink. I say, this is what I'm willing to pay, and when you got a bid $1 above what I wanted to pay, in spite of you sending your people over to me and harassing me to bid more and more and more, I held firm to my numbers, and it meant I only bought 35.
Yep.
But of those 35, I made profit on all 35, and at that time, the profit was about 80 to 90%.
And one of the things that you did, if I remember correctly, because we've met at several auctions and we've stayed in touch for, 22 years. Didn't you get a couple of other people to put some money in, so you had more money when you came down to Florida? So it was kind of like a group.
Yeah, I ended up with what turned out to be 32 investors that pooled money together. That's why I say I manage partnerships.
Yeah.
And actually, my first one in '91, which is what you're talking, I was using that money. That was only 10 people, and the 10 of us just put money in, and I was buying and selling, and we were going to do that for 10 years while I kept my job. But I was doing so well with this that I ended up quitting my job at Merrill Lynch, giving up that career, and then I'll admit I proselyted my book a little bit and talked to some of those customers and clients and put them into a second pool of investors.
Got it.
And when my first pool ended, it ended after 6 years instead of after 10 because the phantom income, the profits we were making when I was telling them how much money they made at the end of the year, it was more than they had originally even invested. So I had to give the money back just so they could pay taxes, and I didn't want them to have such a burden.
Right.
So I gave them the money back and said, okay, here you are. And they said, wow, we did so well. Let's do it again. And I said, I'm already doing it again. I left Merrill Lynch. I took all my clients, and we're doing it. And basically, to the man, they all said, the heck you did. You're going to do it with us again, too. So at that point, I opened up with Well, it was my third partnership, and since then I've gone into a model where I've got 2 partnerships going at a time. They're 6-year deals, and I stagger them every 3 years. So as one falls off the plate after 6 years and no longer is investing but is now liquidating, I open up a new one, and I've got one that's 3 years into its 6-year deal, so that I've got money I'm constantly investing.
Well, what a great success story. I understand that you bought some properties that you in Phoenix recently on this downturn. How many properties do you have now in Phoenix?
I made a major change in 2005. I thought there was a bubble going on in the real estate market. I wrote it in my annual reports. I was one of the few people that actually called it. I sold all the land I had, including a bunch of land in an auction, which is something I never had done before since I just listed it with agents.
Right.
And we sold everything out, and we went to 100% cash. Then I started looking for just houses on a few flips. I did some flips in Houston, Dallas, Denver, and Phoenix. And I didn't really do much, but I didn't hold properties. I sold houses. In 2008, I moved to Phoenix because the bubble had burst, the market had tanked in Phoenix, and houses that were selling at $250,000 to $270,000 back in 2004 and 5 were selling at $60,000 and $70,000 in Phoenix at that time. I started buying houses, and with the partnerships I have going now, I actually started to hold them as rentals. We now, and the reason I was doing it is because a lot of those houses that were worth $60,000, $65,000 3 years ago or 2 years ago are now worth $135,000, $140,000 again.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to flip them because I could have flipped them at $80,000, and now I can flip them at $135,000. Plus my cash flow on them, I had, and people are probably familiar with cap rates. I had cap rates of 19 to 22% on a lot of my properties. So I started buying houses really for the first time ever to hold as rentals in 2008. I still do land. I think land is where you make the most money, but land is also the most risk and the most unknown time for resale.
Yep.
And I still do some flips with houses, but I own 98 rental houses right now, and we've got about 30 of them free and clear just because we didn't need to hold on to the money sitting in the bank at 0% interest. And we've got a bunch of mortgages on others because banks like loaning to us. You know, they're loaning at 65% to value since it's in a partnership. But, you know, we buy a $100,000 house at $70,000. They appraise it at $100, give us 65%. That's $65,000. We only have $5,000 invested in that house. Our mortgage is $400 a month, and that house is rented out at $950 a month.
John, we could do probably 3 hours on this show just talking to you, but I've got another guest that will be calling in. If you're looking for investors for your next multi-million-dollar deal, do you want to give out your information so that they may contact you?
I do not.
Okay, I understand that.
And you're going to be surprised with that answer. But the reason is my original investors, plus a few of their friends, are constantly asking me to open up new partnerships. They're constantly asking me to give more money to me because we're making good returns. And I haven't been looking for new money since 1999.
Well, that's cool. John, you are a friend from 22 years ago. What a success story. I thank you so much for calling in today. We will stay in touch. And again, I appreciate you calling on a Friday.
Have a wonderful day, and let me know when you have some good auctions.
All right. Take care, John. Bye-bye now.
Doug. Bye.
All right. John Fox, an investor. And Alex, let's get back to you. You heard about one investor who bought at auction a lot of land. Kind of the, buy low and sell high. Everybody understands that, but a lot goes into it. You're in the hotel business. And before we get into that, tell us a little bit more about Sebastian Hotel. You said, was there 90, 95 rooms? how many stories? What kind of type? Is it going to be a luxury? Is it going to be an economy? What type of a hotel are you envisioning?
Well, Doug, I'd like to tell you how I got to St. Augustine and then go into that.
Sure.
When I finished my project in Sarasota, Florida, I was looking at other sites in Florida.
Okay.
Looked at least a dozen sites, and finally found this one here in St. Augustine. It was just what I was looking for, a very unique market. It was definitely underserved, especially on the higher end side of the lodging industry.
Mm-hmm.
So we spent a lot of time researching it. Said, yep, this is it. Built-in market, great location. So yes, we took a long time spending the efforts looking at different franchises.
Sure.
Finally ended up with a Wyndham. Our facility will be a Wyndham facility. We are 95 units, as we said, all suites. The rooms are very large, almost double the size of a standard room. We'll have all the amenities that the lodging rooms has with the breakfasts, the meeting rooms, the exercise rooms. We'll have an outdoor pool, whirlpool. We'll have some specialty rooms inside as well. So it'll be a nice mixture of suites.
Hold that thought. Let's go to our last caller. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. It's Brad Thomas.
Hey, Brad. How are you doing? And sir, tell us who you are and what do you do?
Thank you, Doug. Again, Brad Thomas, and I am a writer for several publications, including The Street. Actually, I'm at the office today in New York City, working on some articles up here, and also work in the capital market space with a company called Bull Realty in Atlanta, Georgia.
Well, you are the expert on REITs, and I can say that because I know a lot of people in the real estate business, but when it comes to REITs, everybody starts pointing to you. Tell us how you got into REITs, if you would.
Sure. Well, I hope that pointing doesn't mean it's a lot of pressure, but anyway, no, seriously, it's real estate's always been something I've done. Even growing up as a child, I've been in the real estate business through my family. My mother is still in residential real estate, so got to college. I felt like that was what I wanted to pursue, and I have pursued that career now 25 years out of college. And now, instead of really working directly with a lot of the REITs, I write about a lot of the various REITs that are in existence in the U.S. today and abroad. Today, there are around 140 U.S. equity REITs, again, in the United States, and there are some mortgage REITs. I don't cover that sector. I only cover what I call the hard asset sector, which is companies that have fee simple owned real estate and a security wrapper, if you will. So that's basically my broad background in real estate investment trusts.
And again, REITs are real estate investment trust, and I always try to bring that out because we have everybody from the real estate expert to the general public listening in on this show. Actually, we had 33,000 views on one of our shows recently, so we're getting up there, and I appreciate you being part of this show, Brad. You go up to New York a lot. In fact, I'm looking at your website, and I always amazed to see on the website Donald Trump and you in a picture together, and he is on your website with a quote, says, Brad Thomas has a multilingual approach to real estate. He has built it, brokered it, sold it, invested it, researched it, and now he's telling it. Who can't learn from his experience? And that is why I consider the Intelligent REIT Investor to be a must-have newsletter, and that's Donald Trump, chairman and president of the Trump Organization. You can't get much better than that, sir.
Well, Doug, I mean, that's a very humbling comment and quote from Mr. Trump, and I've just learned so much, Doug. I mean, throughout my really writing career, I met so many intelligent CEOs and owners of both public and private companies. Obviously, Mr. Trump is one of those in the private realm, and and I am able to talk with quite a few other CEOs with public companies as well. In fact, yesterday, one of my meetings here, I met with Mr. Trump's daughter, Ivanka Trump, who I met for the first time. And it's interesting, the Trump Tower today actually celebrates their 20-year, I believe it's their 20-year anniversary. And it's interesting, spent a good bit of time with Ivanka yesterday, understanding some of their more recent investments, including a property in Washington, D.C. that they have acquired by way of leasehold interest, and they're converting the old post office, which is over 100 years old, into a Class A luxury hotel with some mixed-use components, and it's an incredible project, about $200 million investment. So learned a lot from that meeting yesterday. It was great.
Well, that's wonderful. Let's get back Donald Trump just one more time. He talks about this is why I consider the Intelligent REIT Investor to be a must-have newsletter. Tell us about the newsletter and how can people get it?
Sure. Thank you, Doug. And again, most of my writing is based on the publicly traded REIT securities. So I've got, I research a lot of those REITs. You can access that through my website, www.theintelligentreinvestor, and there's a newsletter registration link. We sell that newsletter for $99 a year or $10 a month, and again, it's a monthly newsletter. And I spent a lot of time writing the newsletter. It's we provide a lot of intelligence and information that the individual investor has a hard time accessing. So we feel like we've provided a very unique product today.
Well, you get to interview some of the top minds in real estate. I mean, it's and business. I mean, it's what an exciting life.
Yeah, it is exciting. I learned a lot. I'm kind of like a sponge. I just kind of soak it all up, and if I can, take some of that away, that's my goal. I mean, it's there are a lot of smart CEOs out there today, and we're seeing that's reflected in, frankly, a lot of the stock valuations that we're seeing today. When you see some what seems to be higher multiples today in the REIT sector, you got to keep in mind it's not just because they have some of these REITs have high quality portfolios. It's also a reflection of the management teams that they have in place, and so there are some very, very good management teams, REIT management teams today.
Well, again, Brad, I thank you so much for being a regular on this show. You bring a lot to the table. The REIT investor, the Intelligent REIT Investor, a subscription that anybody that wants to get into that space needs to get. Give us the website one more time.
Sure. It's www.theintelligentreinvestor.
Hey, thank you so much, Brad. Look forward to having you on the show every week. And again, enjoy all your knowledge. You have a wonderful weekend.
You too, and congratulations on 33,000 views. That's a good milestone for you.
You bet. Take care now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right. Had a great guest. That was Brad Thomas, and he does the Intelligent REIT Investor, and very knowledgeable. Let's get back to another knowledgeable guy who's sitting right in front of me. Alex, tell me again, Sebastian Hotel is going to have a Wyndham flag. Is that what you're saying?
That is correct, Doug. And similar to your caller previously, John.
Yep.
I actually set up kind of the same kind of program with an investor group. Each project is an individual specific investment group. And that's what we're doing here with Sebastian Hotel as well. And we will be looking for some local investors for the project.
Well, that's a good segue. How do people get a hold of you, Alex, so that they might talk about their services, maybe investing with you, learning more about the hotel?
Well, the best way is just to give me a call at 715-403-0521.
So give the number one more time.
715-403-0521.
Very, very good. And again, you are a friend of Kitty Guzzi, who is an attorney in the Tampa area and friend of mine for many, many years. She set us up, and I was great to hear about your friendship with her for many years, too. She was actually in FDIC and worked in RTC auctions with me, so Kitty, thank you so much for introducing Alex to us, and we've got a great new hotel that will be starting to build. When do you think, Alex?
Well, right now we're in the demolition phase.
Okay.
With site work coming up shortly. Construction latter part of the year.
Perfect. All right, folks. Hey, thank you so much for listening. We had Brent Lockhart, 5-Star Conference from Dallas. We had John Fox from Phoenix, Arizona, investor. We had Brad Thomas he was from New York. Have a great weekend.